Hello, hello. I'm back with another weekly reading, and I wanted to mention the fact that Mercury's gone into shadow. So we're going to be experiencing that. And as I began the video, I realized I only had 4 minutes of recording left. So that is just Mercury showing up. The Mercury retrograde is going to take place in Taurus, and the shadow is taking place in Taurus. So if all those Mercury things start showing up in a kind of stubborn way, that would be why. And I feel like this is a really good week for us to deal with some of those things that are showing up, because Mercury is our mind, our thinking, our narrative, and it is a personal planet. We also have Venus, who rules Taurus and has been happily traveling through Taurus, moving sign this week on the 11th, I think it is, into Gemini. So that's another personal planet. So this week there is definitely going to be a shift in energy of two personal planets, one starting to get uncomfortable in a space that we're traversing mentally that we're going to have to re-look at, which is a very Gemini thing in itself, because Mercury rules Gemini and Venus rules Taurus, and they're going to be in one another's sign once Venus steps her toes into Gemini. So there is going to be a very big opportunity for us to recognize what's uncomfortable and what needs to be done twice or rethought. So I have got frankincense here, which is a really good one for the lungs. Gemini actually rules the lungs, and it's about breathe and kind of just downregulate a little and slow down. Let's jump into the card reading. Pick a card between 1 and 4, and whichever one you get is your primary theme or message for the week. However, they are all pertinent for you. It is a collective reading, so anyone who finds themselves here will find something resonating with them that they need to hear. And although it is set up for a specific week, it is actually one of those remarkable things with oracle cards that you could find this reading 5 years from now, and if it comes your way, there's something in it for you. And that's something to always remember to trust when you're working with things like card readings, etc. Okay, let's jump in. Have you got your number? And here is our big picture for the week. And I think it is going to be a little bit of a tricky week, if I'm honest, because our first and our last card here both talk to heartbreak and grief. And so there is definitely something that we're either in the midst of or kind of beginning to rehash in order to do some healing. And it's not going to feel good in the moment, shall we say. So the Three of Swords, it comes up for us quite often. And I think it's very perfect in so many ways for the times that we're living through, because we're constantly having to basically grieve the loss of things. So we may be grieving, the obvious griefs are losing someone to death or the ends of relationships. Those are where we kind of think about grief. But what about life constantly being changed for us, goalposts constantly being shifted, working environments always being changed and updated? I mean, just think about how fast technology moves and how you're constantly having to update your computer and update your software on your phone and update and update. And that's actually what's happening to us collectively at the moment. It's just a continual updating. And every time we just feel like we got comfortable with this current operating system, there's an update and it all looks different and it's overwhelming. And I mean, it's funny. It's Mercury again, talking in technology analogies. Mercury rules technology. That's funny. Okay, because just to say, I channel when I work. So the information is coming through me. I'm not thinking about what I should say or how I should say it. I just let it flow through me. So when I can hear Mercury speaking directly through me, I am a Gemini and I have Venus in Gemini. So this is definitely a week that's shouting close to my heart. But the point being is that we're going to have to get used to, even though it's uncomfortable, we have to keep updating. And the more kind of stubbornly attached we are to any ways of operating, the more we're going to feel like this lady feels in the Three of Swords. And it's not a great feeling. And I say it every time this card comes up, is like, Swords is a thinking space. It is airy. It is mercurial. And yet, whenever we are experiencing deep emotional grief and trauma, you can't tell where a thought ends and a feeling begins, an emotional feeling, and actually even a physical feeling, because we feel grief physically. So this is a really good, and Taurus is very much about the physical self. This is a really good card for us to just keep coming back to and saying, okay, I've got to let go of another layer of the onion. It just is what it is. But I do think that because the card's coming up for us so often, there is this collective shift towards doing that, whether we choose to or whether it's kind of being inflicted upon us with the energy of the times, we're doing it nonetheless. Then we've got the Two of Pentacles straight into the Ace of Pentacles, which is pretty cool. It's going backwards, obviously, in the order of things. In fact, we've got 3, 2, 1, like a countdown, and then we've got a 5. And I've spoken into my struggle with 5s in general. Anyway, the Two of Pentacles is our only upside down card this week. And in its ideal form, it's about balancing spirit with this pentacle and matter with that pentacle, and it's about trying to find a balance between the yin and yang, balance between the mind and body, a lot of balance references, right? And of course, Gemini is a dual sign, a sign of 2, and here we're looking at being out of balance. But what I like about going from 2 to Ace is that it's saying, okay, I'm out of balance. I'm going through a grief process. I've peeled back another layer. I'm feeling very vulnerable and exposed. I don't know how to heal. And then we go into the Two of Pentacles, like, I'm out of balance. I just can't find my footing. I can't find anything that I can anchor to, to get purchase before pushing off into the next direction that's right for me. And yet the Ace is promising, because of that, because you've peeled back a layer, because you've recognized that you are out of balance, you get to plant a seed. You get to start anew. And this is a beautiful, new, practical seed of pentacles. So that means you're building the seed of something that is going to be very tangible in your life, because you're doing the work. You're shedding the old thoughts. You're not shielding up your heart. You're feeling stuff. You're recognizing the imbalance. And that is a collective thing at the minute, for sure. So the Ace is really giving us this beautiful promise. And for me, this is the jewel amongst the challenges of this week's experience, as I'm seeing it through this set of cards, is that everything that feels awful this is the gift. It feels awful, but that's because you're planting a new seed. And all the work you're doing is preparing the soil in which you plant the seed, because we all know that if you drop a seed into beach sand and walk away and never water it and tend it and nourish it and give it good soil, nothing's going to happen. But this right here, this is you preparing the soil. And then once you've planted the seed, you're not really going to recognize it at first. And that's another really important thing. Trust that in each moment that you are planting seeds by going into the imaginal realm and imagining something better, by taking practical steps towards that something better. Those are all very important. And the seed is slowly doing its thing, because we never drop the seed, even in good soil, and the next day we see a fruit tree bearing fruit. It's a process. So the Five of Cups is going to say you might then get a little despondent. You might come back to the kind of heartbreak feel of the 3, back into this like, woe is me, this is so hard, I don't know what to do, nothing seems to be happening, I'm doing all this work to change, I'm doing all this work to heal, and nothing is changing. And that's okay. It's okay to have those feelings. It's okay to go into the kind of like, woe is me, the pity party moment, as long as we don't get stuck here. And it's quite easy to get stuck at a 5, I find. So in this, you can see that she's just letting her life force from her heart space drain away as she empties her own cups, because she knows, I've got to let go of this idea. I've got to let go of this way of thinking. I've got to let go of this relationship. I've got to let go of whatever. So she's doing it, but she's very reluctant. She's very overwhelmed. She's sitting underneath a starry sky. So she's doing it in the nighttime, when she's feeling more inward, more reflective, more alone. But in all of this, she's not noticing that beautiful bowl full there with all that magic and all that color that's being offered to her. And she will. She will see when she finishes having this woe is me moment, if she just turns her head, like that's the trajectory. And that's where you're headed. Just like we can see in the rest of the reading, I don't know how to heal, and yet I'm healing. It's not working. So the reminder of this is it is working. Even when it feels hard, it is working. And you have to keep trying to bring yourself back to that and counting your blessings, looking at what you do have. I think it's important that we have our down moments, and this seems to be coming through a lot in readings lately, is just like it's okay to feel awful. It's okay to feel like you're failing, like you're not enough for moments. Because in those moments, we are recognizing what the core wounding is, what our core belief system is. Because that's when we hear the narrative in our heads telling us, you're not enough, you're not working hard enough, you're not shifting, you're not healing, you're too this, you're not enough that. And when we hear it and we reflect upon it and we make the decisions to heal and change, understanding what it is that we're trying to break in those cycles, which requires us to have some tough stuff, to go into reflective retrogrades and into shadow work and all of that, then we can change it. So we don't know what we don't know. But when it comes up, when we start feeling and hearing those pity parties, and what am I saying to myself in those moments? That's when the magic of beginning to change is really available to you. So instead of beating yourself up for not getting it right, recognize that if you're feeling these things and if you're recognizing your thinking patterns, you are getting it right. And plant those seeds. Thank you for watching. Remember, I do personal readings as well as astrology readings and healing sessions and combinations of all of them. So look me up in the link below if you'd like to get in touch, and I'm sending much love and light to everyone.